degrees. 35 right now. Still a little bit of fog out there. A little fog when it comes to the Middle East and the Persian Gulf. And we heard our Secretary of Defense just, a couple of days ago talking about that Iran should have a nuke within about a year and a delivery system pretty close to that, and that we're not happy about that, we will that everything is on the table, and I guess that includes the use of nuclear weapons. I don't know, but it's a scary situation.
It's a scary and fascinating time. What will it take, though, for America to declare war on Iran before Iran sets the Persian Gulf ablaze? Well, author Darren Thompson brings his perspective into what's going on in 2012. Good morning, Mr. Thompson.
Good morning. How are y'all?
Real good. Thanks for joining us. The Secretary of Defense seems to think that, all options are still on the table when it comes to Iran.
Oh, certainly. What's kind of interesting from that regard, although there seems to be a lot of bluster on all sides, you really start getting into the weeds here. At this point, the Iranians, if you get past their sort of bluster on the subject, then they don't really want to fight, and our president isn't really interested in the war because you have an election coming up, and if you really start looking into the Israel as well, while Netanyahu is saying that this is certainly a possibility that they could strike, if you look into the polls over in Israel, they're about half whether they want to strike and half whether they don't. So they're actually kind of ambivalent too. So it's really kind of a mess in that regard.
Your book is entitled Living in the Age of the Ram and the Goat. It's Armageddon in 2012, Daniel's Ram-Goat Prophecy of Iran and the coming war with Iran and the United States. Now, if you look at this, has Iran been at war with the U.S. since 1979?
I think that's probably true. I mean, a lot of this built-up animosity over the years is part of what's playing into sort of the attitude that we get out of Iran, and there's still a lot of bad feelings over the Shah since that relationship was sort of broken between us and Iran with the revolution there, and with the coming of the mullahs over there, things have really deteriorated over time, and it sort of plays into this attitude that we have towards Iran over there. Basically, the United States and the way we're handling our foreign affairs with them right now, our attitude appears to be that Iran is more of a nuisance and maybe a third-rate power over there, and we're sort of trying to we have been treating them up to this point as not as powerful as they see themselves,
right?
And so where we have not been giving them the credit they're due, they've been their drive is to become the sole superpower over in the Persian Gulf. And that really plays into the prophecy in my book. If the prophecy, as I've seen this vision of the ram and goat as described by the Old Testament prophet Daniel, the way I see events taking place over there goes to our pulling out of the region, as President Obama has indicated his change in strategy for our defenses, where he wants us to pull out of the Middle East and concentrate our forces over to what he wants to consider the new threat, China. And I believe, as I've written in my book, that is going to be the event that is going to open the door to Iran actually becoming the superpower in the Persian Gulf, where they invade Iraq, which isn't a surprise to us.
Well, they tried to do that once before, and pretty much both Iraq and Iran had a long war that didn't get past basically the strait there. I mean, it was kind of a duel to and talked about chemical weapons and things like that. does Iran, and we're talking about, they're getting nukes and things like that, but you got a feeling that Israel, of all the people, is just not going to stand around and let this happen. I mean, Israel is a nuclear power itself, although it's never been declared as such, but I can't imagine Israel. I know they're sort of divided on whether they want to do it or not, but whether the people of Israel want to do it or not doesn't mean that the prime minister and the cabinet and the Mossad and everything else that Israel can bring to bear on a surgical strike on Iran. You don't see that happening before anything else?
Well, the book is based on biblical prophecy and of this vision of the ram and goat. And what's kind of interesting about that prophecy is nowhere in it does it mention Israel. Okay, and to me, part of the reason may be that when Iran talks, when they do sort of hurl their insults towards Israel, that may be more bluff than reality, and again, to me, Iran's chief objective in the region is respect. They're interested again in being the bully on the block, as it were, and they ultimately want to be in control of the entire Gulf and control 2/3 of the world's oil supply and blackmail the rest of the world with it.
You say there's a coming war between Iran and the U.S. I'm fascinated because it ties into Bible prophecy, the prophet Daniel. I'm fascinated to hear what you think would trigger this war between the U.S. and Iran.
Here's how I see the scenario playing out. As I had mentioned before, what you're going to see is the United States pulling out of the region, and you're already seeing that based on what the president has said. And what that's going to do is that's going to sort of open the door for Iran to invade Iraq. And like I said, we expect that. But what we don't expect, that I believe the prophecy tells us, is that it's also going to invade Turkey and Saudi Arabia. And if you do that, then they will control the Persian Gulf, 2/3 of the world's oil supply, and basically be able to tell the rest of the world what they want.
Is that when Uncle Sam steps up and says, "I don't think so"?
Yeah, and that's going to be the point where we get engaged. I think is that we're going to be more patient than we should be, and allow him to have that to occupy those nations. And it's going to be at that point where the United States and the world are going to say, well, we've had enough, and that's where you're going to see the conflict.
The name of the book, Living in the Age of the Ram and the Goat, The Coming War Between the Iran and U.S. It's by author Darren Thompson. Where can folks find it, Darren?
The most convenient place is to find it on Amazon.com and search on my name, or Living in the Age of the Ram and the Goat.
All right. We appreciate that. Ramandgoat.com. Darren Thompson, appreciate your time today.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed it.